And here are our next 2 pages, 4th grade. Today we are doing Module 5, Lesson 37, and we're going to be multiplying mixed numbers. So take a moment to fill out your table of contents, pause the video if you need more time to write this information, and then whenever you're ready, let's get going. Our objective today is that we can multiply a whole number with a mixed number, and specifically we're going to be using the distributive property. Let's define what that distributive property means. When you use the distributive property, what you're doing is that you're breaking down or decomposing, so I'm going to write the word decompose in my definition, your mixed number by breaking it into their ones, that whole number, and fraction. So what does that look like? Let's see an example down below. The original number sentence says 3 times 6 and 4/5. You can even see it with these parentheses. We've decomposed 6 and 4/5 into their ones and their fraction. When we're using the distributive property, we're distributing, we're handing out. We're going to hand out this 3 to the 6. We're going to hand it out to the 4/5. You get a 3, you get a 3. We distribute that 3 everywhere. So instead of saying 3 times 6 plus 4/5, we can rewrite that as 3 times 6 added to 3 times 4/5. We can multiply our whole numbers together to get 18. Multiply our fractions together to get 12/5. We know that 12/5 is the same as saying 2 whole groups and 2/5. So then we add that together for 20 and 2/5. So let's practice what that would look like visually. We're going to draw tape diagrams to show 2 ways to represent 3 units of 5 and 1/12. That's basically their way of saying 3 times 5 and 1/12. So I'm going to show 3 groups of 5 and 1/12 using tape diagrams. Here's one group of 5 and 1/12. Here's another group of 5 and 1/12. And here's another group of 5 and 1/12. And that equals 3 groups of 5 and 1/12. But let's use that distributive property to show another way to do that. When we're using the distributive property, we're breaking it down into the ones and the fraction. So we're doing 3 times the ones and 3 times the fraction. So it might look a little bit like this. If I'm only multiplying the ones, that's going to be 3 groups of 5. 5, 5, 5. Plus the 3 groups of that fraction. 1/12, 1/12, 1/12. So that looks like 3 groups of 5 plus 3 groups of 1/12. We have the same amount all together, but this is just another way of breaking down those numbers so they're less intimidating. I might not know 5 and 1/12 off the top of my head 3 times, but I know what 3 times 5 is, and I know what 3 times 1/12 is. 3 times 5 is 15, 5, 10, 15, plus 3 groups of 1/12 is 3/12. So 15 plus 3/12 gives us a total of 15 and 3/12. Write a multiplication expression to match each tape diagram. Well, that's kind of what we did already. Let's call this tape diagram 1, and we'll call this tape diagram 2. Our expression for tape diagram 1 would be 3 times 5 and 1/12, which gives us 15, because 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 times 1/12 is 3/12. Our second tape diagram is where we use that distributive property to break it down. We started with 3 times, and we broke down our mixed numbers into ones, which is the number 5, and its fraction. We could then distribute that 3 to the 5 and distribute that 3 to the 1/12. The 5s get a group of 3, the 1/12s get a group of 3. So it turned into 3 groups of 5 plus 3 groups of 1/12. That became 15 plus 3/12 for our total of 15 and 3/12. Let's practice this distributive property, only this time we're not going to use a tape diagram to model it. We're just going to be using our passing out of the numbers. 5 times 4 and 1/6. When you use the distributive property, you're going to decompose your mixed number, which means we're going to start by decomposing 4 and 1/6. Instead of saying 5 times 4 and 1/6, I'm going to say 5 times 4 plus 1/6. Now I'm going to distribute. I'm going to do 5 times 4, and I'm going to do 5 times 1/6. 5 times 4 plus 5 times 1/6. Now I can solve both of these multiplication sentences. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 5 times 1/6. I'm just going to multiply my numerator and keep my denominator, 5/6. 20 plus 5/6 equals the mixed number, 20 and 5/6. So now let's get into this routine. Let's practice our distributive property until it becomes more automatic for us. We're going to practice 4 times our distributive property. Let's start with 6 times 2 and 3/5. We're going to start by decomposing 2 and 3/5 into its whole number 2 and its fraction 3/5. I can now distribute, pass out that 6 times to both the 2 and the 3/5. 6 times 2 plus 6 times 3/5. Now I'm going to solve for both multiplication sentences. 6 times 2 equals 12, plus 6 times 3/5. 6 times 3 is 18, and your denominator is fifths. I wonder how I can turn this into a mixed number. How many groups of 5/5 can I pull out of 18/5, and what would be left over? 5. Can I do it again? Yep. 10. I can do it again. 15. I cannot do it one more time. That would take me to 20. I've pulled out 15. I can only pull out 3 more. So now I have 12 plus 1, 2, 3. 3/5. 12 plus 3 3/5. 12 plus 3 equals 15. We're going to keep our fraction 3/5. Okay, we're getting automatic. Let's practice it again. 2 times 7 3/10. First, I'm going to decompose my 7 3/10 into 7 plus 3/10. That means now I can distribute my times 2 to both my whole number and my fraction. 2 times 7 plus 2 times 3/10. 2 times 7 equals 14, plus 2 times 3 is 6, and we're going to keep our tenths. Since this is not improper, I can just keep my fraction as is and combine these together into a mixed number. 14 plus 6/10 gives us a total of 14 6/10. And we're taking it from the top, we're doing it again. First, let's decompose our 7 1/4. We'll start with 8 times 7. And then we'll do 8 times 1/4. We're distributing that 8. 8 times 7 equals 56. 8 times 1/4, I'm going to multiply my whole number times my numerator. 8 times 1 equals 8. And I'll keep my units of fourths. Because this is an improper fraction, I have to change it over to a mixed number. So I'm going to see how many groups of 4/4 I can pull out of 8/4 and see what's left over after I pull out those groups. I've pulled out 4/4. Do I have enough to do it again? I do for 8. And I can actually just stop there and rewrite 8/4 as the number 2. 1, 2. So this turned into 56 plus 2. 56 plus 2 equals 58. Let's practice one more time before you're on your own for that problem set. 3 3/8 times 12. Now this time, our mixed number is actually in the front of our multiplication sentence. So we're going to decompose it, then write our times 12. 3 plus its fraction 3/8 times 12. It doesn't matter the order, the distributive property still works. I can still distribute my times 12 to my fraction and my whole number separately, even though we're writing it backwards. I can still do 12 times 3 plus 12 times 3/8. 12 times 3, my whole numbers, equals 36. So now let's find our fraction. I know my unit is eighths, so I'll keep it eighths, but we're solving that math fact 12 times 3 again. And 12 times 3 equals 36. I can see pretty clearly that this is going to be an improper fraction because 36 is a much larger numerator than our denominator 8. So let's pull out those groups of 8/8 and see how many we can do. 8, 16, 24, 32. If I pull out another group of 8/8, that'll take me to 40, which is too far. So far I've pulled out 32 out of 36, which means I can only pull out 4 more. So I can rewrite 36/8 as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4/8. 36 plus 4 is 40. And our fraction is 4/8. 40 and 4/8. We've gotten a lot of practice with the distributive property during our practice notes today. So now it's your turn. Good luck on your problem set.